Hi, I'm Dr. Emma Craythorne and welcome to the After Hours Skin Clinic, where your skin questions don't stop when the clinic closes. And this episode, we're going to talk about winter skin and how to keep that skin glow. And I'm delighted that Dr. Ellie Rashid, my skin partner and best friend, is here to join me to talk about all our skin tips and also to have a bit of a gossip at the same time.
Perfect. Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
So let's start with what happens to our skin in winter, Ellie?
So in the winter, the weather's obviously colder. We put the central heating up and the humidity levels in the air changes. And all of that can contribute towards how hydrated our skin feels and how dry or irritated our skin might be.
Yeah, it's really all about that skin barrier, and it really does take an assault, I think, in winter because it's cold and dry outside. It's often windy. And when we think about the wind, whenever the wind hits off our skin, it's essentially kind of evaporating bits of moisture away. And each time that's happening, it's adding a little bit more inflammation. So you've got the sensation of the wind, which is stimulatory. And then you also have moisture essentially being forced off the skin that you had on your skin. Then you've got this low humidity that, again, is affecting the skin barrier. And then you're going into a central heated house that is, again, a dry environment. And then this switch between the two that seems to happen all winter long, I think is why that skin barrier takes such a whacking, really, doesn't it?
Yeah. And if we think of our skin barrier as this top layer of our skin, and it's arranged like a brick wall. And so the cells are arranged and it keeps the hydration within our skin. But in the winter, that cell wall is affected. And so as we're losing more and more moisturizer, as you say, as the wind comes through and it's drier, that brick wall can't keep the hydration within our skin as well as it does in the summer months, for example.
Yeah, so it just kind of evaporates away, then more moisture comes out and that gets evaporated away. And each time that happens, it's just irritating for the skin.
Yeah, it puts stress on the skin.
So I think if you're somebody who's got a tendency to certain skin conditions like rosacea, which a lot of us have, or eczema, psoriasis, other inflammatory skin conditions, that must inflame it even more.
Yeah, most people will say that their skin comes under more stress during the winter months, for sure. Central heating seems to really play havoc with my skin.
Well, there's not central heating in my house because currently the radiators have been taken off and there is no heating.
Okay.
So I'm probably feeling it
Skin's the glowiest it's ever looked. I did think that.
I've had to put on some extra hyaluronic acid in my layers in the morning just because I've woken up so freezing. That's why I'm wearing these socks so my feet haven't warmed up. Anyway, we're not here to talk about my cold feet. So what are your top tips in winter?
So my top tips in winter are to nail your skincare routine. So hopefully you don't feel the effects of the winter on your skin so much. I usually opt for a slightly thicker, more rich moisturiser. Still put my SPF on. Back to the SPF story. Even during the winter, put my SPF on every single day. But yeah, usually just the small change that I make is probably don't use cleansers that have any alpha hydroxy acids or beta hydroxy acids, so things like lactic, glycolic, salicylic acid in them. I do still use my Clearer Special.
Always, never stop.
Never stop. But some of the supporting stuff that I use, I change. So yeah, my cleanser I keep really gentle and simple. And I use a rich peptide moisturiser.
Yeah, that is exactly the same as me. And that's the advice I give to my patients in clinic as well. Because do you remember back in the day, whenever we first started in dermatology, and you would have somebody starting on tretinoin, which is a medicine that we use for acne, for aging of the skin, for rosacea, for melasma. It's a topical agent you put on at nighttime. And it can be very irritating on the skin when people are first starting to use it. And what we used to say is because we used to tell people not to start it in the summer, well, which is the wrong advice, and to start it in the winter. But actually in the winter, it's almost the hardest time to start it.
It's really tricky to start tretinoin in the winter time.
So I always say the same as your advice, that to use a moisturiser that is generally a thicker moisturiser and not skipping that step. So after cleansing the face, you do put that moisturising step on and then you've got your SPF on top of it. I always say to be slightly careful of this lower part of the face because we often wear our coats up really high, and we often wear scarves around our neck.
Yeah.
And actually that rubbing action on the lower part of our face can often cause people who might have rosacea or acne to get little bits of breakout. So you might get more like spots appearing on the chin area.
Yeah.
And if you are using some of these harsher ingredients like you talked about, or your retinoid at night time, that abrasion can sometimes be really irritating as well. So my top tip in winter is to use a silk scarf if you're using a scarf, or I actually have a cashmere scarf that I know, it's very posh.
I have a cashmere silk scarf only, none of this wool.
Oh no, it gets better than that. That my mum has sewn a silk strip on the inside because she loves me.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And so the silk actually sits against my lower part of my face so it doesn't rub. So that's my top tip.
You know the big thing in winter though, with Christmas, I feel like everyone gets given skincare and then people just whack on everything and anything. Their skincare routine goes out the window. They put on everything and anything that they've been given and then they develop a rash.
It's true. Or they're trying to get ready for that kind of Christmas party. So they want their skin to be as good as possible.
Overdo it.
Overdo it.
Yeah.
And then they're not looking after themselves properly either because, you know, I suppose one of the biggest thing about your skin glowing and looking as good as it can be is if you're sleeping well, eating well, drinking enough water, not drinking much alcohol.
Yeah.
Do you know these things, Ellie Rashid?
No, this is all completely new to me.
November 1st, ringing any bells of not drinking any alcohol?
I did sober October for the whole month. And then on the 1st of November, I undid all the good that I had done for the previous month, unfortunately.
Which is actually what a lot of people do in December, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I thought dry January is, it's just so depressing in January. So I thought I'm not going to, I tried it 2 years in a row and not succeeded. So I thought this October thing sounds like I could do it. And I did do it. Very, very proud.
I'm very proud of you as well. Yeah. That is amazing.
Yeah.
But I do think that does contribute to why people's skin does get flared in winter, in December, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, routine sort of goes out the window, doesn't it? And we all know a good glow relies on a consistent, good skincare routine.
I know, I do feel a bit boring that I constantly say that. Yeah. It's just consistency.
But it's true. And the other thing about tretinoin, whenever we used to advise people to put tretinoin on, it was like, build it up really gradually because, your skin can get irritated. So maybe do it like 1 or 2 nights the first week, 2 or 3 nights the second week. And then if you're good, keep going. But I just think when you're expecting people to make these decisions, you just get decision fatigue.
Yeah.
There are too many decisions to make. And also when things aren't part of your routine, you just don't bother doing it.
Yeah, so I think that's right. So you put it on every single night.
Yes.
You put your SPF on every single day.
Yes.
And there are the naysayers of SPF every single day. Oh, it'll affect your vitamin D. Oh, you don't need to put it on every day. You've not got any skin cancer risk. But we're really talking about how to make the most of already pretty good skin. This is to try and optimize your skin for skin health. Keep it as good as possible for as long as possible. And you put on SPF every day. That is what you just have to do. And that is in the winter as well.
Yeah. I mean, even with my skin, even if I'm not at risk, particularly at risk of skin cancer, I get really bad post-inflammatory pigmentation. So if I've had a few spots, the brown mark will be there for months. And if I put my sun protection on, then I just know it'll fade quicker.
Yeah, it's true because you're just not getting stimulated by ultraviolet.
Exactly.
What do you think about it winter in terms of somebody might buy skincare products for someone else, or these beauty calendars that you can get that have like lots of little tiny things in them?
I love those.
Do you?
Yeah, I just love I love presents. Just think it's so exciting. Every day you get a little present.
Have you had one of those?
No, I haven't. No. If anyone's listening, I'm open to the Liberty Advent calendar.
Well, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm very against them. I think because it goes against our idea of consistency and using the same thing every single day. I don't mind the little kind of candles that you get in it, or maybe like the hand cream. Makeup's fine.
Lovely.
But
fragrances.
But not the moisturisers, SPFs, and actually, I don't know, maybe it is a good idea so people can try different ones. I just feel so bad for all the tiny little packaging that goes into them.
I know what you mean, yeah. From an environmental standpoint,
yes,
you are right.
And a consistency standpoint.
Yes, but not all the presents are skincare.
Okay, so some of them...
some of them hair care.
Okay, so I'm open to that as well.
Yeah.
See how easily I'm swayed.
You're so fickle.
And in winter, do you do any activities that you have to slightly modify your skincare routine for?
What, like?
Well, winter activities like skiing.
So I don't like the cold. I really dislike the cold. I've been skiing twice, when I was about 16 and then when I was 18. One, I'm always worried I'm going to die. And secondly, I'm cold. So no.
I don't think you get cold while skiing.
Oh my God. No, not for me. Beach holiday any day of the week.
Well, my tips for skiing on the 4 times I've been is the thing I find most annoying is the rubbing, as in the rubbing of the... What is going through your mind today, Ellie Rashid?
Don't know what you're about to say.
Is the rubbing of how high you have to have up your ski buff and your scarf and your goggles. And I don't like that on my skin. So I do. And then you're at such high altitude that the UV is also
more intense.
Yeah. So I'm more scared I'm pretty scared of that UV, but I do use my SPF and I make sure I like double layer the SPF on. And I use a much more gentle SPF because I don't like the idea of my goggles then pressing against my skin if I've got lots of additional chemicals on. So I use the SPF for children.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's the modification I make in the winter. I love that. La Roche-Posay and Helios UV Immune Invisible Fluid for children. Literally should have shares in this company.
Honestly, I reckon have a word with L'Oreal.
And the other thing I'll do, and I just alluded to that at the beginning of the show, is that I do add a layer of hyaluronic acid in. So in the morning. So I will...
like a serum?
Yeah, a serum. And so after I wash my face, I would sometimes supplement that instead of using my vitamin C in the morning. And I'll use the hyaluronic acid serum. And then I'll put my moisturiser on over the top. Because my skin would have a tendency to be pretty dry and sensitive if I didn't do that. And at the minute, yeah, that's the case. Yeah. What's it like having central heating in your house? Because I don't know anymore. My house is so cold.
So basically, I'm obsessed with central heating. My husband hates having the central heating on. So I'm like, well, we just need to have it on and you can just have the windows open in your office. He works from home. So the days that I'm at home, I have to have it on. I hate being cold.
And what does it do to your skin then?
It just makes it dry. I mean, the skin on my body gets really dry as well. I mean, we talk about our face all the time, but also like the skin on my legs, just so dry. I'll take my joggers off and literally like sheets of dry skin will come off with it. So I do need to be conscious of that and make sure I moisturise my skin after I've had a shower.
Do you do the trick of putting the moisturiser on your body when your skin is still wet, like we tell our eczema patients?
So I do tell my patients to do that, but I don't do that. I just feel like it takes longer to rub in.
What?
Yeah, I know.
It's
I know.
so quick.
I don't like the feeling.
It doesn't take longer to rub in, I'm
Do
sure.
you not think?
No, let's do a test.
I'm gonna have to do a test. But no, I just put I do put a moisturiser on my body during the winter.
I'm just imagining how you're going to do this test. You're going to have like Lucas with a stopwatch. Lucas is Ellie's son, not her husband or the next door neighbour. But while you are in the shower and then you are damp, put on your moisturiser and cream, pat yourself dry, and compare that to the time it takes to dry yourself and then put on the moisturising cream.
But does it not, like when you're rubbing it in and you're still wet?
No, it kind of like moves all over much more easily.
Yes.
But then you use the towel to pat it dry. Try it.
Going to give it a while. I tell all my patients to do this. I literally tell all my patients to do that and I don't follow the advice myself. I'm like, well, they need to though. If you're eczema prone, I don't have eczema.
Just really dry skin.
Just really that flakes off everywhere, all over my house.
Okay, Lucas has a challenge. Is there anything else that you do differently in the winter?
I'm normally a bit more conscious of my food and how much water I drink. So I'll just be a little bit more aware of my gut microbiome. It's usually the time of year that I think about like taking a probiotic. Not quite sure why. I think it's in the lead up to when, I don't know, you feel more cozy, like you need to look after your body a little bit more, look after your gut health a bit more.
Well, I suppose looking after our gut health is going to be the way then to make sure that our immune system is kind of bolstered and ready to go whenever we do get attacked by all of those.
It's probably just the season of feeling like you're getting a viral illness all the time, and so you just want to optimize things as much as possible. But yeah, I'm usually better at taking, and we have to take vitamin D as well, October till March anyway. So I get a bit more into my supplements in the wintertime.
Yeah, I take a vitamin D every day anyway.
Even in the summer?
Even in the summer, yeah.
Really?
Just because, again, this idea of consistency, and otherwise, if I get out of the habit of doing it, I might not get into the habit of doing it again.
Yeah. No, I just do mine in the winter.
Once I've done my little layer of something, I'll just keep on doing it. Very regimented, aren't I? Ellie, you touched on peptide moisturisers. Tell us a bit about peptides and why they might be helpful.
Yeah, so peptides are little short chains of proteins or amino acids, which is what proteins are made up of. And the premise is that you use a peptide moisturiser and it helps to stimulate your own collagen and elastin to form. So yeah, I'm using a peptide moisturiser, but they're normally quite a rich consistency. So I use them in the winter because I feel like it's more hydrating and it just feels nice on my skin. It leaves my skin feeling hydrated.
They're pretty amazing, these little peptides, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's really clever.
Yeah, so some of them are going to be switching things on to have an effect in terms of how nerves respond. Some of them are switching things on to have an effect on inflammation, on skin barrier. Do you think it's going to be that next step in cosmeceutical medicine is going to be around the peptide story?
Yeah, so when I did my PhD, before regenerative dermatology was fashionable, so that was in 2014, we were looking at wound healing and using stem cell therapy to try and stimulate a wound to heal and also to improve collagen levels within the skin. And these peptides, the way that they work, they're not embedding collagen into our skin. They can't do that. But what they do is they help to stimulate your own cells to produce collagen that's more organised and more structured. So it doesn't like absorb into your skin and sort of form part of your skin, but it's more like stimulating effect.
So these peptides are really acting, aren't they, like the little messengers to
Exactly.
say, to switch on the collagen production, switch on the hyaluronic acid production, switch on the calming substances that stop our skin from feeling inflamed, or calming kind of this responses. I'm thinking particularly of some of the ones that are thought to be, I'm not going to go into that, it's too much. SNAP-25 molecules.
No, get out of that immediately. Niche.
I have always tendency to go too niche. You do have to bring me back. And I also talked a little bit about the hyaluronic acid. And hyaluronic acid is essentially a substance that we make in our body. It comes along from the fibroblasts, and it's a little bit like our collagen in the fact that it's used for support of the skin. But we also use hyaluronic acid in various aspects of dermatology. So some of these aspects are where it's injected deep into our skin. It can sit on our bones. It can be injected on the very superficial layers of the skin. And we think of those as fillers, or kind of dermal fillers. But we can actually apply hyaluronic acid topically to the skin as well. And essentially it works by attracting some water into it. And it really works by trying to provide a little bit of hydration to the outermost layer of the skin. And some of the clever hyaluronic acid formulas have large molecules of hyaluronic acid, which sit on the very, very surface of the epidermis. And then other ones have slightly smaller molecules of hyaluronic acid, which penetrate still within the epidermis, obviously not going into the dermis, but penetrating slightly deeper. So some of the fancy formulas have hyaluronic acids of different sizes, so that they're going to different depths within that epidermis and all providing a little bit more of hydration. And then I put a moisturiser on top of that.
Skincare's moved on so much, because before it's just hyaluronic acid full stop, and now you get these multi-molecular weight, what you're talking about, these different sized hyaluronic acid that can penetrate a little deeper in that top layer of skin, the epidermis. Just so clever.
And can you imagine, but even whenever we first started in dermatology, I had a patient in front of me, say, for example, with acne, and you would say, okay, this is the medicine that makes your acne better, and you would send them off with a tube of benzoyl peroxide and a retinoid. But you did not spend the time talking about the other aspects of the skin routine, like what do you wash your face with, which serums might be helpful. And the outcomes that you can get now, because we understand the importance of skincare as well as the medicines, I think is totally game changing.
Total game changer. The whole thing's changed. Like the whole skincare industry has just really advanced. I feel like we're spending a lot more time talking about the supporting skincare routine than we ever used to. Before it's like, here's the medicine, off you go, have a lovely time. Whereas now there's so much more of a conversation around the skincare routine. But I think also patients are a lot more skincare literate.
Yeah.
They know what they want. They know what the ingredients are. They'll ask you about it. So, we need to stay on top of our game.
But I think even in medicine, that's changed, hasn't it? You have somebody come in and they have high blood pressure. Well, in the days before, you would have given them a high blood pressure medicine and told them off they go. Whereas now you'll say, okay, what does your diet look like? What does your sleep look like? What do your hormones look like? What is your day to day? What are you doing for exercise? What are you doing for stress relief? It's about those supporting things as well as the medicine, which really, I think of it as, well, medicine 3.0 or dermatology 3.0, where you're combining the everything with often the medicines that we know that work, but you need to have both of those.
Yeah. Often there's not enough time, though. That's the issue, to talk about all the other stuff as well within a dermatology consultation.
Yeah, there's not, and that's why I think podcasts like this can be incredibly helpful.
So helpful.
So you can go in and you get the medicine talk, but then you also do need the supporting talk as well.
Yeah, and we can also put a little link in our Clinic Letters chat podcast.
I think we should just do that.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay, so let's think about the products that we're recommending for winter. Number 1, moisturiser.
Yeah, so I use a peptide moisturiser. The one I'm using at the moment is the Trini London one, but there's another really good peptide moisturiser by the Inky List. Then Allies of Skin have got a nice peptide moisturiser as well. Youth Bomb by Beauty Pie, they've got a lovely peptide moisturiser.
And so you're using that moisturiser after you've cleansed your face and before your SPF.
Yeah, exactly. And even sometimes in the evenings, if my skin's feeling a bit dry, then I'll also use it after I've done my tretinoin step.
So my additional recommendation was for a hyaluronic acid, and this is usually in the form of a serum, and I like these multi-weighted hyaluronic acids, and that would go on before your moisturiser. So if you're being really kind of proactive and your skin was being very dry and irritable in the winter, you could use the hyaluronic acid serum followed by your peptide moisturiser. Yeah. I really do like the SkinCeuticals hyaluronic acid HA intensifier, and then there's another one that's really great called the multi-molecular hyaluronic complex from Neod. That's probably slightly more cost effective, that one.
Yeah. SkinCeuticals is gorgeous but expensive.
And then I think we're probably going to be quite unified to say the most important thing to remember in the winter
is to keep your routine consistent, SPF in the morning, clear a nighttime special at night.
Agree. We're so boring. Okay, I think that's a wrap for this episode. Thanks so much to Ellie for joining me.
My pleasure.
And thanks to all of you lovely people for joining us. If you haven't already, take a moment now to click on the subscribe button so the next episode will pop up like magic in your feed. And see you next time on the After Hours Skin Clinic.